What is going on, traders? Welcome back to the Traveling Trader. Happy Friday to you. I hope you guys have a good day and a good start to your weekend. Let us get right into this thing. I wanted to go over, obviously, the crypto market cap, Bitcoin, and then we'll go over some updates on a few coins that we sent out trade alerts for, mainly Cardano, BNB, EOS, and RVN. And then I'll talk about BAT and do a little bit of technical analysis on BAT since I'm getting a lot of questions on that coin. And then we'll leave the stock market alerts and the stock market news updates until the end. Glad you can join me today. Let us get right into it. Looking at the market cap, 143.5 bill. Bitcoin currently sits just shy of 4,100, which is an important marker for Bitcoin. Cardano, you see 21% almost in the last 7 days. The biggest gainer in the top 20, I believe, followed by Tezos, which is almost 20% in the last 7 days. Going down the list, you see BAT, which we'll talk about in a second, almost 43% in the last week. Then you see this coin here, ranked number 31, Binance Coin, MXM. Don't know what the fuck that is. 115% gains in the last week. And then obviously you see RavenCoin here continuing its tear on the market at 42%. Jumping into Bitcoin, looking at the 1 day, not much has changed. You do see this ascending triangle formation, and this is coming off of a downtrend. Obviously, I did talk about how you can have an ascending triangle formation act as a reversal coming out of a downtrend. It is highly unlikely most of the time, but it has happened. You see this clear resistance here going all the way back to December. This is at around 4,100. Now, I did send out a trade alert for a short that I set on, well, I don't want to say the exchange because my initial account got locked out because you can't trade in that exchange here. But I did set a short at 41.50. So if we get to 41.50, my short will initiate on Bitcoin. And that is a pretty low risk trade. It's a managed risk because we're dealing with an almost 5-month long resistance, right? So you can set a short like that with a tight stop limit in order to protect your trade if things don't go your way. And with leverage, obviously you don't need the coin to move much in order for you to gain. So if it hits 41.50 and quickly retraces to 4,000 or 4,050, with 5x leverage, you know, a 2% drop immediately becomes a 10% ROI. Anyway, sign up if you want access to the trade alerts. Looking at the 1 week, same thing, not much has changed, bouncing off of the 200 week MA, the 50 falling below the 100. And on the 1 month, you see that we are forming this bear flag. However, we do see 2 green months back to back. Obviously, we have 2 days left for this month, but all indications point to this month closing positively unless we see a sharp dip between tomorrow and the day after. But we haven't seen back-to-back green months since November, December of 2017, part of that famous bull run. Looking at ADA, so this Cardano is one of the biggest gainers as we've shown in the last week, especially in the top 20 coins. We entered Cardano at the breakout of this resistance range. So there was this resistance range that Cardano's been trying to break above for a few months, and it finally closed above it. Sometimes you can play the breakout if a coin, is breaking out parabolically above a resistance range. A lot of times it's best to wait for a close for a confirmation. In this case, I waited for a close and entered Cardano with a tight stop limit above the resistance range, and we are now up almost 21% on Cardano. All kinds of bullish indicators. One, you see the on balance volume, which is a measure of the volume flow, and you see it increasing, meaning that there is more positive volume coming in. The MACD is obviously trending upwards. We see all kinds of golden crosses between the 50 and the 200, between the 100 and the 200. Obviously, it's perfectly normal to see some retracement here, especially with overbought levels on the stochastic and the RSI. But to what extent the pullback will be or the retracement will be is really unknown. Nobody can tell you that until the coin starts reacting to certain levels, and then you can make determinations going forward. So for instance, BNB, which is one of our top gainers, and it is the largest holding in my portfolio, in my long-term portfolio, we're up 222% now since we started scaling in. Again, you want access to the trade alerts, sign up, link is in the description. But throughout, through this rally here since November, BNB's only retraced twice at around 10%. So that relatively is not really a retracement at all. If we're talking about 220% gains, for it to only retrace twice in the range of 10%, that is really nothing relatively. So to what extent something will retrace is really not known until it starts retracing and you could start measuring using something like the fib extension, etc. But saying that something is going to retrace just because it's overbought doesn't really make sense. You could see here how many times BNB has been overbought. Here's in January, it was overbought. In February, it was overbought twice. In March, it's been overbought 3 times. So, and it continues to once it's overbought, if you're expecting it to retrace heavily, that's not always the case. Something can stay overbought really for months, bouncing between overbought levels and just below that. Same thing on the stochastic. You see it's been overbought almost the same amount of times as on the RSI reading. So overbought and oversold alone don't really mean a whole lot. They're good indicators to use in a confluence, but you don't want to trade based off of that alone. I see a lot of other experts on YouTube claiming that you should be using overbought, oversold signals as ways to enter or exit your positions. That is really a very rudimentary reading of these momentum indicators. What I like to do is set trailing stops so that I'm not forced to manually buy or sell, right? So in this case, in BNB, you might be thinking to yourself, oh, you're up, a certain amount. Should you sell? Well, set a trailing stop and let the market decide for you. That way you're not making a premature decision potentially. Looking at EOS, we are currently up almost 26% on EOS since we started scaling in. Again, playing the breakout of this ascending triangle, you see the mini golden cross between the 50 and the 100, and it is now inching towards the 200. RVN, this is one that obviously a lot of people have been paying attention to just because of how much it's up. This is the second time that we've swing traded RVN, and we are now up 113%, almost 114% on RVN the second time around. The first time around was at the breakout of this resistance range, and then it started retracing. My trailing stop hit, and it was forming this bull flag. I bought at the close of above this bull flag, and it started rallying again, and now my trailing stop limit is set wider because I'm up so much. I can afford having a wider stop limit. I don't need to set it to minus 2.5% or minus 5% or even minus 10%. On something like BNB or RVN, I'm comfortable at minus 25 or 30% because I have a lot of room to play with and a lot of profits to book if and when these coins start falling past my stop limit point. Finally, we'll look at BAT. Looking at BAT, basic attention token. Here's one that I actually haven't entered this yet. I know some people in the Discord have entered it. If you want access to the Discord, that link is also in the description. But I know some traders in the Discord have were in BAT for a while now, and it has been a steady gainer since the first week of February. Really, you see this upwards trend line here. I probably could have gotten in at the bottom of this rounding bottom here, especially as soon as the golden cross between the 50 and the 100 happened, and between the 50 and the 200 happened back here, and you see the momentum with the volume. I probably could have gotten in. I was involved in other trades at the time, but one of the reasons is that BAT continued to make these rounding bottoms, right? So it would make this rounding bottom, hit resistance, come back down, make the rounding bottom, et cetera, et cetera. So it did that going, all the way back to February 2000 or January 2018. So over a year, it's been doing this. And then it finally cracked this resistance. You do see it pulling back heavily now just because, it hasn't been over this resistance. It took so much to break above this resistance that now you're seeing a heavy pullback on BAT. And let's see if this resistance, which is now support, can hold. For something like this, I would like to take a look at, the 4-hour time frame or something even shorter like the 2-hour time frame, because if you're looking at the 1 day, you can't really see how much it's retracing or what the candles are doing. You do see this long wick, meaning that the price did reach there and it is now retracing. But in order to get a little more context, you could look at the 2-hour to see how the candles are actually forming after the breakout of this resistance level. So, and then you can also use something like a fib retracement to see how much further down it will retrace to on the fib levels. And this is mainly used for buyback opportunities or entry opportunities if you haven't entered into BAT yet. So for me, as I said, I haven't entered into BAT. You know, if you have, obviously hopefully you're up and you were able to book those profits or set a trailing stop, but you know, it's finally broken the resistance that it hasn't been able to break for over a year now. All right, moving on to stocks. The big story today obviously is that Lyft IPO today. Lyft, the ride sharing company, the competitor to Uber, had IPO'd, and it you know, it was up 20% really early on. This is very common in IPOs, especially tech stock IPOs, is, you know, you do tend to see a price surge the minute that it hits the market, but it is now leveled off. It is back down to $80. So it was at 87 and now it's at $80.56 at the moment. So one of the questions I'm sure will come up is, should you buy Lyft? Well, I tend not to buy things when they initially IPO, just like in crypto when something ICOs or hits the exchange for the first time. I tend not to buy something because I like to see obviously price action in history before jumping in it. And we've seen major tech stocks IPO and then just tank thereafter. See Snapchat and Twitter. So it is my view that you'll always have a chance to enter at a more optimal time than, you know, entering here on the first candle of the chart ever. Looking at the rest of the market, you see the Dow is up 0.5%, S&P up 1/3%, Nasdaq is up 0.5%. You see oil up 1.4%. This is a big deal because we hold this UWT, which is an oil-based ETF. It is now up 24.5%. If you want access to the stock trade alerts, you get that with the Diamond Traders and above level. Same link in the description, but we are now up 24.5% on UWT, and you do see this potential golden cross forming between the 50 and the 100. On balance volume continues to kill it ever since December. Another stock that we are eyeing is Southwest Airlines, right? LUV. This stock right here acts like a crypto really, because you see these large swings here. You don't really see these in major stocks, right? You might see it in some of the lower price stocks or low market cap stocks, but you know, Southwest Airlines, we're talking about a major company here, a major corporation. You don't really see these large swings all the time, but you see that it is now forming a potential inverse head and shoulders, and the 50 crossing above the 100 here. You see the potential inverse head and shoulders. Now I say potential because it has to cross above the neckline in order for it to be confirmed, and we see that on Southwest Airlines. Every time the 50 crosses above the 100, we see a rally to some extent, right? So this is potentially a good time to enter Southwest Airlines. Again, keep your eyes peeled for the trade alerts with the entry, stop limit, and potential target points as well. One last one that I'll look at right now is Boeing. I'm thinking of buying the dip on Boeing. Obviously, Boeing dipped on terrible news, but you know, it is now bouncing off of the 100 moving average, and we do see that volume starting to pick up again. So Boeing might be a good stock to buy the dip on. Obviously, it's not for everybody because the stock is $380 a share, so it's not very accessible, meaning some of the lower price stocks, you know, you could buy more shares with. However, keep in mind that no matter how many shares you buy, if the stock goes up 10% and you have, you know, if you buy 2 shares and you have $760 invested in those 2 shares, 10% is 10%. So you will be gaining 10% on that $760. It's just like buying $760 worth of, you know, a lower price share, say something that's, you know, $10 a share, and you buy $760 worth of it and it goes up 10%, you make the same amount of money. So just keep that in mind. Obviously, dividends are something to consider because dividends are paid out usually on a per share basis. So yes, if you only own 2 shares of Boeing and they're paying out a $2 dividend, then you get $4 versus a stock that might be paying dividends where you can, and it is priced where you can own more shares of that stock. But anyway, I'm rambling. Anyways, that is it for this video. Leave a question or comment in the comment section below. Let me know what stocks or what cryptos you're looking at, or if you have any questions about anything trading related. If you want access to the trade alerts, that link is in the description. If you're looking for one-on-one help with your technical analysis or need coaching of any sort with regards to trading or technical analysis, that link is also in the description. That gives you 3 1-hour one-on-one calls with me a month, and we usually do that over video conferencing or voice chat. Subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell. Stay safe out there. Peace.